So, Will, are you all set with what you're going to be saying for your intro?
Yes, sir.
How has Bundle AR served the real estate market?
In more ways than one, it's limited only by your creativity, Matt.
No, I'm actually serious. Do you actually know about the
I had like an hour and 15 minutes notice to put something together.
I'm saying, do you actually know about the real estate one that we did? The big thing that we.
I've seen pictures of it, yeah, of like that interactive floor plan. But yeah, I think that one predated me.
Facebook says going live soon, but my thing says, oh, now I got to press manually start live video. There we go. And live video. Uh-oh. The audio shouldn't be transferring through right now. But we are live, so if you're in the room, be aware. And we will be broadcasting to Facebook. And so I was like, it's kind of funny. Like I normally stand over in the corner and say hello message to all the so the live camera is sitting over on the side of the room there, but the visual from the live camera is actually the visual from the live camera is up, like basically sitting up above the stage looking at us. So always makes it fun. So at this point, and we already have people watching on Facebook, so I will say hello and welcome to our Facebook audience. The actual program is going to get started right around 6:15. In the meantime, we are all just in the room, open networking and talking to each other, although not a whole lot of people talking at the moment. But that said, stick around and things will be coming really soon, and feel free to say hello. I'm about to post the standard welcome message, which is the comment that gets pinned in all Facebook live streams. Coming in just a moment. And Francis has joined us again. Thank you, Francis.
I'm the only one that's really casual here.
What's that?
Huh?
I think I'm the only one that's really casual. Why did everybody choose such serious clothes?
I must have missed the part where I had T-shirts and Birkenstocks. I didn't see that anywhere as one of my clothing options, but I'll have to look for it next time.
Right.
Hey, wait a minute. I put on this watch just for the occasion. This is pretty casual, you guys. I used to wear a suit, and I had that avatar on my business card. And so till I gave away 1,000 business cards, I had to stay in that suit. Those cards are gone, so I changed my clothes last week.
I haven't worn a suit for a year.
I meant my avatar.
So the fun part about that, I think I got about 500 business cards delivered about a week before the pandemic started. So they're all still just sitting in my closet.
Still sitting there, huh?
I opened it. I think I took one or two. As you know, our business cards are augmented, so I do show those off occasionally.
The show.
Hey, Vishal.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Did you see my email about the videos and stuff?
Vishal?
No, as you know, it's early morning. I just woke up. Is this something I should know?
Yeah, just I'm gonna set up private volumes real quick.
Go ahead.
Is that okay? Vishal, can you follow me into a circle?
Sadly.
Can you join me over here for a second?
I'm setting up private volumes so they can have a private conversation.
Yeah, I was going to say the private chat works well. If anybody wants to talk to anybody privately, just click on their name next to the little arrow next to any name in the room, and you can start a private chat if you need to talk to somebody or ask a question or something.
Yes, and on that, for those of you presenting, pay attention to your private chat because I do watch the clock, and if you start to run over your time, I will start private chatting you and say, hey, about a minute left. You're over time. Wrap it up. And if I actually have to get up and stand next to you and start talking over you, that means you're really over time. That's only happened once in here, though. So Francis, Francis is asking us questions from Facebook, and I would say no, I do not think we have virtual dress codes. Clearly, but no. It's the whole Zoom call thing. I think some people, if you're going to be on camera, that's one thing, but if you're an avatar, I don't think it really matters. You get to represent yourself however you want. Safe assessment there. What do you think? I don't know. Ben, you're wearing shorts. What do you think? No dress codes?
Huh? Yeah. For online like this, I don't see a real need for it.
Could make this a black tie event. Not be that hard.
That is true.
Give everybody 5 minutes. Come back. It's now a black tie event.
Or, maybe talk to some of the Verbella people to have it so like your character has no choice but to look that way.
Oh yeah, if you enter this venue, you're automatically changed to black tie.
Exactly.
Programmatically.
Wait, I'm at a beach party. What happened?
This is kind of fun.
Hey, Ray.
You're right.
Uh-oh. There's a lot of stuff you can do here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you just found the dance commands?
Yeah.
I just saw that, yeah. That's fun.
Yep.
So I have to show this to Greg. This is one of my favorites. I always like to wrap up with one of these actions right here.
Ooh, very Steve Jobs. Which one is that?
Now that one you've got to you have to type a command into the text chat box because there's not enough F keys on your computer's keyboard to cover all the wonderful human-like things you can do in here. But if you just type a / and the word help in the text chat box where it says public, you're going to be exposed to a whole plethora, as I like to say, of things. Let's just say that.
You're not kidding.
So yeah, just the word /. You put the / and the word help, no spaces, and then it will show you some of the different commands to do the samba. There goes Vishal. That's awesome. That's a /. Yeah, you want to do the / Rajan?
God dang it.
The one under the question mark.
Oh yes.
You got it.
Well, if you click on your username, then you have the whole list of actions that you can click on. It's pretty easy on the top left.
Yeah, you're only limited to those 8 though because it's based on the F key and short keys. But yeah, if you type the help, you'll see there's a lot more commands, a lot more dances and backflips and those kinds of things. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
That one was pretty cool.
What's the one you're doing right now, Will?
That is a great question.
I love
I
it.
I think I tried to do a dance that is a bit too complicated for my avatar. He can't handle it.
Somebody told me that once this was just too like the real thing. Here's the robot for you.
I like that one. Yeah, Matt, if anyone's going over their time, I think you should just come up next to him on stage and give him the
Just start
flash
dancing.
impatient.
We have a gong show hook. It's F14. And if you look for F14 key and don't find it, then I got a bridge I can sell you in San Francisco. People look, they actually look down the keyboard and go, wait, mine only goes to F10 or F12. And
That's a sample from A Tribe Called Quest.
yeah, I got to stop this dance. I'm sorry, he's not stopping. Do this one. Okay, there we go.
All right, we're going to get started in about 4 minutes. So in about 2 minutes, I will turn the chairs on, and those of us who are not presenting can grab a seat. And everybody who is presenting can also grab a seat, and I'll do a quick introduction. Brad is running the entire room. That's really kind of disturbing, watching him run laps. Now Ben is breakdancing. But yeah, we'll get started in a few minutes. And we do have we have about 9 people watching on Facebook Live already, which is good. Francis is the only one. Well, Lauren said hello right at the beginning. Francis is the only other person so far who has said hello. So for those of you who are watching on Facebook, we'd love it if you'd say hi and introduce yourself. Those of us who are in the room can see who's in the room. But we run out of trick and keyboard to do all those wonderful tricks. Augmented reality button comes to help. Yes, augmented reality buttons to control the dance moves. That would be awesome. But yeah, we'll get started in about 3 more minutes, and off we will go talking about commercial real estate or real estate in general, actually. Hello, Laurent. Laurent, is this your first time? I don't think I've seen you before. Or at least I haven't seen your name before that I know about. Architectural studies at University of Illinois at Chicago. Nice. And Giuseppe. Can't seem to log into your Verbella account. Uh-oh. That's all right. Thanks for joining us on Facebook. We will participate with the people who if you're on Facebook, you can just type questions into the Facebook and we will respond. Fun. So you get to participate live even if you're not here virtually. But with that, I am going to place some seating. I think I do this one. There we go. We have some seats out there. And I will ask my presenters to make their
Alex,
way to the
how's it going?
stage. Not here already. I see most of them. And we'll get started in right around 2 minutes. Starting to trickle into the Verbella space too. This is going to be kind of weird for me. I haven't hosted in 2 months. Otherwise, I've had other people hosting. Sort of a strange occurrence after hosting this thing for 4 years straight to actually have some other people host it for 2 months in a row and then come back to doing it.
It's like riding a bicycle, right?
I hope so.
You're doing great, brother. You're doing great.
Gregory appears to be getting psyched up with some meditative exercises over there.
Is that what I'm doing?
Your arms are moving.
Oh yeah, no, that's talking hand gestures. Going. It's fun.
Cam will be joining us, Matt.
All right. Yeah, we'll get to him. I'll do a quick intro first, and then we can talk about the topic really quick. And actually, we're about a minute out. So again, welcome to everybody in the Facebook Live space. Thank you for joining us from there. Welcome to everybody in the room. We got about 1 minute. I'm going to give everybody 1 more minute to start. I see a couple people still sort of standing and straggling in at the back of the room. But with that, it is 6:15 and we will get started. So hello and welcome. Really quickly and ultimately to help understand who understands the space and who doesn't. By a show of hands, if you are in this room and you have been to this event before, please raise your hand. The raise hand button should be at the bottom center of your screen. Thank you all for reminding me to sort by raised hands. There we go. All right. Now, for those of you, please put your hand down. If you have never been to this event before, please raise your hand. I see Shahan in here. I see Barley and Anne and Rajat. Excellent. Go ahead and put your hands down. We will be using that raise hand function when we get to the Q&A. So one of the first things I need to do right now is I need to mute the audience, which I have just done. This is a presentation. We do ask that you please respect the people who are up here presenting. Don't talk over them. Make sure your microphone's closed while you're in the audience. When we get to the Q&A section, I will ask people one by one to unmute themselves to ask a question. But for those of you who have not been here before, welcome. This is VRAR Chicago. We have been running this event continually for over 4 years now. Obviously, for the first several years, it was done in person. Mostly at 1871, although we did originally kind of tour around the city of Chicago. Kind of getting back to the basics, for those of you who haven't been here before, the point of this event is you, is our audience. We are here to answer your questions and help you take your next step forward with immersive technology, whatever that step may be. Every month we pick an industry topic, and in picking that industry topic, we're hoping to connect two very different audiences. We're hoping to connect the people from the industry who have questions about using immersive technology, and we're hoping to connect with people in the immersive technology community who are trying to provide solutions or break into and offer solutions to that industry. We found that that's really the best way to get conversations going and get conversations moving, is to have a very set topic and let people, the conversation flow. The format for the evening is pretty simple. We're going to we've got about 5 people who are going to be presenting. They are all in various areas, experts on real estate. And the main thing that they're going to be presenting is who they are, their background, what they do, what they see coming with immersive technology, VR and AR within the real estate space. We have people from commercial real estate background. We have people from residential real estate background. We have a rather interesting story today in the fact that we actually have a real estate company that completely runs their offices virtually. And we happen to be in their space at the moment. But with that, again, the whole point here is for your audience to get your questions answered. That's the point. So they're going to present. They're all going to present very quickly. Anywhere from about 7 minutes a piece is the target. If they start running over 10 minutes, you'll see me come stand next to them and do dances. But at that point, we'll get to the question and answer session. And that is the session where you get to ask whatever question you want of them. And ultimately, by their presentation, you should know who you could be directing your questions toward. With that, we do have to thank our sponsors, because like any event, we would not be able to do this without the people that support us. And with that, I'm going to introduce our 3 sponsors first by bringing one of our sponsors up to stage. Will, he's here to join me. And Will be talking about Bundle AR. Here, excellent.
Yes, thank you, Matt. As Matt mentioned, I'm Will Zeiler, and I'm with Bundle AR, a augmented reality company based in Chicago that has developed a no-code platform that allows anyone to create, edit, publish, and access AR experiences. So thank you again to Matt. I'm very excited to be here. I've been attending these events for a few months, and it's always really interesting to see the subject matter experts that are featured and get their takes on ways that VR and AR can be used to improve the way that their businesses operate. So really excited to learning more about the real estate industry, more specifically this evening. And as you'll come to find, I imagine, the applications for both VR and AR are really only limited by your imagination. So there's no shortage of opportunities to surprise and delight your users. And hopefully by the end of tonight, you'll have a better idea of where things stand in the VR AR space within real estate. So without further ado, I will turn it back over to Matt, who again, I'd like to thank for putting this together, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much.
Of course, I'm having fun navigating screens at the moment. Our next sponsor is, I don't think there's anyone representing 1871 in the room at the moment. I'll look again to see if I see any of the familiar names. But 1871, as I mentioned, this event ran for several years in the physical world, and we hope to actually get back in the, especially as the pandemic's coming out, as the vaccines are coming out and people are getting back to physical events. We hope to get back to physical events, or more specifically, hybrid events in the very near future. In which case, at that point, we will be hosting them again back at 1871. 1871 is Chicago's technology incubator. I don't know the numbers currently, but I do know immediately prior to the pandemic, there were approximately 400 companies based out of 1871. They really are I just actually saw a statistic in a chat, so I can't confirm it, but it was the percentage of companies that start in Chicago, which are actually based out of 1871, is a metric that they're measuring now. It's a high enough percentage that it's something like, I want to say 15 to 20% of all companies started in Chicago have a presence at 1871. I don't remember what the exact number is, so don't quote me on that. I just saw it in a chat thread on 1871's Slack channel recently. But it doesn't surprise me. 1871 offers the Pyros program, which will help any company that is getting started in any stage of getting started. If you're in the idea phase, if you have an idea, but you're starting to find product market fit, or if you're starting to actually grow or scale. They have services for companies in all of those areas, and ultimately they're very well connected. I think they're still, again, I don't know the numbers after the pandemic, but they're one of the top technology incubators in the world. We love working with them, and if you're going to be starting a company in Chicago, or honestly, if you're even starting a company now, they do have services for people doing it remotely. So I would definitely check out their programming and see what they have available. On a personal note, I've been a member of 1871 myself, or one of my companies has been a member of 1871 now for, I hate to say this, but I think over about 7 years. That's been a very long time. But that's 1871. The next sponsor, who is going to be represented here a couple times tonight, Cam, are you in the room?
Hey, just jumped in a few minutes ago. I'll jump up to the stage.
There he is. Hey, Cam.
Matt, thanks for having me. Hey, thanks for putting this together. I'm Campbell, Delsky Partner Manager of Verbella. Matt and Chris and Tom have lots of experience running these unique, virtual event engagements. So thrilled for the opportunity to partner and sponsor. We have Brad also representing the Verbella team tonight as well. VR, AR. Chicago also has a team suite with us upstairs. And if you have any questions, feel free to jump onto the sales and marketing floor. Pop into our virtual office and say hello. Here, I'll drop my email in the chat thread as well. Thanks, guys.
All right. And with that, we will actually start getting into the presentations, because we do have a number of presenters today, and we want to let them have as much time as possible and get to the Q&A. So we're going to start off first. Let me get past... actually, I almost forgot, and I can't forget this. We do also need to thank our partners, the people who are not actually, they're not quite levels of sponsors yet, but they definitely help us promote and get the word out about the event. They often help us find speakers and, just help us in content in general. Those would be XR Women, 2112, which is Chicago's, creative incubator, IGDA, Independent Game Developers Association, and VRML. They're great partners, and we do always want to thank them also for helping us get the word out about the events. And with that, I will introduce our first speaker, who is Gregory Kirsch. And ultimately, I'm actually just going to say his name and have him come up and stand next to me. And as soon as I see him here, where is he? There he is. As soon as I see him here, I'm going to go away and I'm going to mute myself, and I will let him go. So this is Gregory. There you go.
Hey, thank you very much, Matt. Thank you very much for the invitation. I appreciate it. And thanks for letting me tell you a little bit about my story and about the state of my industry. As you can see behind you, I'm with a company called Cushman & Wakefield that you probably all have heard of. It's one of the largest commercial real estate companies in the world. I think we're number 3. And my job is I'm a real estate broker. So I kind of think of myself as a realtor for retail spaces for shops. And I think I put the picture of Rome burning, which is what most people think of right now when they think of what's happening in the real estate space. But, my journey started kind of in a different format. I was an attorney when I started, and I think that helped me to learn how to think and sometimes how to speak. And then I joined a really small boutique firm called Baum Realty Group, where I learned how to bootstrap technology and get things to work that shouldn't work together, and then moved to another company called Newmark, where I learned about different technology tools and strategy tools that we use in our field. And now I'm at Cushman, and my hope is at this point, how do I figure out how to advance what I do in my industry? And hopefully that's using some sort of technology. Basically, the commercial real estate industry is divided in a few pieces. You have brokerage, which is what I do. You have consulting, development, financing, and of course the occupation of real estate. And within the real estate brokerage space that I'm focused on, you really have 4 primary categories. You have office brokerage, which really benefits quite dramatically from the VR space. You have industrial that has a little bit of a harder time. You have capital markets, which is really the debt and equity side, buying and selling of real estate, typically income generating real estate. And then finally you have retail. And within that space, there's a lot of companies. There's a myriad of them, but the 4 big ones are CBRE and JLL, Cushman & Wakefield, and Newmark Knight Frank, which I was a part of before, joining Cushman. And the technologies that we use, and when I started back at Baum, the biggest piece for a retail firm was obviously it's the standard suite of services and databases, because it was all about cold calling and about the sales funnel. But really it was the introduction of mapping technology, which integrated mapping and demographics, and the products that we use were things like Map Info, and then it turned into Esri. Esri was usually on the institutional side or on the government side, but brokers started to use GIS technology to do regressive mapping and strategic analysis and looking at consumer expenditure patterns. And that was kind of a bit of a game changer for what was really a pretty parochial practice of showing somebody a bunch of storefronts and saying, which one do you like more than the other? And it kind of evolved into a little bit more on the strategic consulting side, which I mentioned earlier. And the other tools, the technology tools that we use, are things like Argus, which is more of a financial analysis tool. We use CoStar extensively. That's just a big old database, and it's awfully expensive. And the mapping stuff takes a lot of training, obviously. So does Argus. Then there's Matterport, which you probably all heard of, and that is really making the biggest inroads towards transforming the real estate space. And then most recently, the use of mobile location data has been a big game changer for what I do for a living. We use a company called Placer AI, but there's another one called Unicast that you've all heard of. And that's super important for trying to determine where activity is centered on a semi-real-time basis. And that's been very helpful. And I think in many ways will ultimately supplant GIS tech, which relied on the analysis of proximate demographics within given trade areas or encashments or within given drive times. But really, there's some primary challenges to our business, and this should resonate with everybody here, is that real estate brokerage in particular is still incredibly paper-based. And when I say paper, I mean PowerPoint and Word, and I mean PDFs. And we still send a bunch of, I literally go on tours with people, and I have a piece of paper in my hand, usually bound up book. And by the end of the tour, they've stomped on it in the back of my car. And so we're evolving. And most of the people that I speak with from the technology space really acknowledge that commercial real estate in particular is about 20 years behind most industries. It could really benefit from additional technology being applied to the space. And there are some companies that are working hard at it, and some that have presented to us lately. I'm part of the technology committee at Cushman, but companies like Occupier.com or LeaseUp.co or VTS, View the Space, which is really more entrenched. But these are all companies that are trying to figure out how to reduce the paper load and then ultimately, reduce the overhead component that is really big in commercial real estate, which is the ratio of administrative to the brokers who are the production of revenue, which is primarily commission based. I want to touch on COVID a little bit before I run out of time, but COVID obviously was a game changer for retail in particular. As an asset class, it was already challenged because prior to the recession, I'll give you a good example. The Chicago market would routinely produce about 9 million square feet of new space. And Chicago, being a larger city, is no different than most of them across the country. The recession happened and that inventory glut kind of ground to a halt, and we didn't go really above 1 million square feet. And I think COVID is going to aggravate that. So very little new development is taking place. I think as a result, we're seeing some static rent activity, especially in the suburbs. In the city, we've seen a real decline because of COVID, especially within the high street space that I do a lot of work on. I represent a lot of clients on our high street, Michigan Avenue, so I know that place really well. But if it wasn't for the decline in development, I think we would see vacancy rates dramatically escalating from what might be a 20% in some neighborhoods or on Michigan Avenue up into 50%. If you walk these streets, you'll see that in some ways Rome is burning, on the high street environments in places like Lincoln Road or in Madison Avenue or Fifth Avenue. But in other places, things are thriving. There's asset classes that are going to come out of this pretty unscathed. But what I do every day is to try to use technology, try to use this information to guide my clients to making effective decisions. I think I got the beep. Is that you, Tom? So anyways, in sum, if you have any questions, I look forward to getting to know you and learning about what your thoughts are in commercial real estate.
All right, thank you, Gregory. And again, we'll you guys will have a chance to ask him questions during the live stream or during the Q&A session at the end. But up next, this is rather an interesting one that we're going to have. So where's Brad? I'm not sure there he is. He's sitting over there. Brad is representing eXp Realty, but also Virbela, which is the space that we're all sitting in. And so, again, a little bit of a different twist on the story where we normally have, the people who are talking about the industry and they're talking about how VR and AR are affecting the industry. This is, definitely a conversation along those lines. And I'll let you just take it away, Brad.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. And Tom and all of you for being here today. It really is a privilege and it's an honor to be able to stand up here and tell a story, a true story that I've been blessed to witness, humbled to experience, but very proud to have contributed to. And so if you want to go to the next slide, I'm going to run through these slides really quick because there's more than I have. I only got about 5 or 10 minutes with you guys. But go ahead and pop to the next slide. When you think back at a time when innovation really was the evolution, I remember 8-track tapes and my brother was listening to music. I remember Blockbuster videos, and I still remember only being able to get books from Amazon.com. Well, when you think of innovation and what these companies have done by moving to the cloud, just sheer movement to a cloud-based concept has created some of the biggest companies in the world. So if you want to go to the next slide, this guy, Glenn Sanford, in 2006 was already one of the top agents for Keller Williams. Internationally, he understood the business. While he was working for Keller Williams in 2006, 7, 8, and 9, the market did some crazy things. And I'm sure Greg can attest to what happened with the subprime lending, and homes were going in foreclosure, brokerages were going upside down. I was with a title company for 21 years, you guys. I got laid off. I ended up at a company you all probably have heard of called Zillow. Right about this time, this guy was saying there's got to be a better, faster, quicker, more efficient, more effective way for me and my agents to help people buy and sell homes. And what he found is, if you go to the next slide, is there were a lot of people in the same situation, but the reason they were closing down was the overhead, the operating costs. So what he did is he leveled the 1906 traditional real estate model and brokerage and said, I'm going to build something today that's unique and different. Now, the story goes, and I was there in 2009 when Glenn launched eXp Realty in October. There's a video on YouTube you can go watch 2 months later of the very first eXp Realty office, 35 agents, considering growing into a second state. And I got to do a tour with Glenn himself. What he created was this cloud-based concept where if you got rid of the overhead and the unjustifiable expenses, and you could bring everybody into a room like this, you'd be able to give your agents more, you'd be able to provide more income, more compensation, provide the community they need, but do it in a cloud-based environment. So all of these things that you see here in a cloud-based model versus a brick and mortar model were obvious to the agents even back in 2009. Next slide, Matt. This timeline is, and again, I feel very humbled to have been a part of this timeline. I've been in the real estate business since 1985. I did 21 years with First American Corporation. I spent another 4 years helping Zillow go public. I'm an original stockholder, shareholder, and did that for a little over 4 years, traveling the country for Zillow. And then I got the call from Glenn Sanford. So I've been with eXp since 2014. And I've been a part of watching this company do what they're doing today. And the best news I'll give you is that the growth and expansion of the company is because of Virbela. If you go to the next slide, again, I can give you guys access to these slides. They're public record. They're on a website. But we realized we had to transform the life of the consumer, the person who lives and breathes, buys and sells homes. How do you transform the life of a patient? You have to first start with a doctor. So what we did is if we could create all the environment, the tools, the technology that an agent would need to go out and successfully be able to do what they do, help people buy, invest in real estate, make them completely mobile and global, that's what eXp created in 2009. And that's what Virbela has allowed us to expand and has enabled us to basically, I guess, real power is giving other people power. Go to the next slide real quick. I'm almost done. When you think of this room alone with just the 21 of us who have experience, we've all have wisdom and knowledge, we've been around the world, done different things. So in a space like here and even now, while I'm talking, and that's how this has been set up, if I start asking you questions and you start talking with me and we open up the floor like we will, that collaboration and engagement with people from around the world, you just can't put a price on getting an answer to a question instantly or getting a solution to a challenge real time and instantly. So what our agents are allowed and empowered to do is to be surrounded by people all the time in this type of an environment. Now, it's not inside Virbela, they have their own world built. But today, that group has 55,000 agents. They're growing at 1,000 to 1,500 a week. They're in now 15 countries. You guys, they opened in 6 countries in 6 months and never did a single human being get on an airplane to do this. And it's because it's all been built on this Virbela platform. Next slide. Collaboration means global communication. It means challenges or incidents. I like to laugh when I say this, but it's true. It's faster than Google and Twitter. CNN doesn't have the news as quick as we can share information. You pop your avatar into this space anytime, anywhere, you have instant access to people from all walks of life. Even now, if you look up, there's 77 human beings here. That connectivity is priceless, but when you bring people together, the collaboration, the participation, the community, the engagement, that's what creates real power, I believe, using this type of virtual reality or augmented reality technology. Wait till I show you what we can do on our browser. Next slide. Some of the, again, having a global access through a cloud-based environment like you're sitting in now allowed that company to grow. So eXp World Holdings is the parent company of our eXp Realty organization. I came there to do education and training support agents with lead generation, helping people buy and sell their homes. Now what I'm doing is showing the consumers how they too can use Virbela, since a lot of the world today is working remotely. So the very people who are buying and selling homes, they need a place to work now. They need a bigger home, more bedrooms, more baths. Well, eXp World Holdings is not just the parent company for eXp Realty, it's the parent company of Virbela. It's also the parent company of Success Magazine and Introland and Silverline Title and Escrow. So these agents are becoming global and mobile, but they're also very powerful because they bring things to the table to the end user, the consumer, that they're going to need anyway. And because they're part of our family of companies, everybody wins. Next slide. How do we do it? It's the three C's. It's easy: compensation, building community, and doing it cloud-based. When you think of these three things, it really has created an opportunity for eXp to become today and currently the #1 independent real estate brokerage on earth. We are the most agent-centric brokerage, and that's a quote that was just written on the cover of Success Magazine I'm looking at right now. It says eXp Realty has become the most agent-centric brokerage on the planet. And I think it's because we're able to connect people, let them collaborate together. And now that we can bring this to the homeowner, the consumer, the busy mother, the father with 5 kids, I could tell you so many stories of people I have seen come into this space and be able to use this way beyond real estate. But the evolution to me of real estate is because of this virtual environment. I think the COVID-19 pandemic has affected every human being in some way, shape, or form to some small or even massive degree, but it has impacted us all. And so I think as a future, how it's going to continue to evolve. It's funny, 10 years ago when eXp launched, I was at a session called, "What does the future brokerage look like in real estate?" And so now here I'm standing here talking about the evolution of the last 10 years. The next 10 years, I think we're standing in it. I think we're sitting in it. Go to the next slide real quick. We'll just run through this. This is the growth. I'm going to give you guys access to the site. If you go to life.exprealty.com, these slides are there. There's a bunch more. I just grabbed the ones I wanted to hit on. If you go one more slide, this Virbela platform is the beginning, I think, of a great global conduit that's going to help connect humanity. What I really want to talk about is the evolution. And if you go one more slide, Matt, it's a visual of my office, and you can come in there 24/7, 365 right on your browser, and it's called Frame. And it's a Virbela product. But if I could meet with anybody, anytime, anywhere, for any reason, right on your mobile device, right on your browser in my office to discuss anything, real estate or anything, I think this is gonna take the world by storm. All right, next slide. I think I'm done. There's my name, there's my number. If there's anything, seriously, my door is always open to you guys. I'm here in Virbela. You can go to the offices, both partners and events and sales and marketing. I have a desk here. I do teach in this room every day. And I also teach in other environments and worlds that we built at eXp Realty every day. And so I'm easy to reach. And I just want to say thanks again, Matt and Tom, for giving me this time today and let me share the story of our evolution of how eXp has used this for real estate.
Thanks you, Brad. Trying to remember, I think I don't know if I met Brad as like the first person I met, but he's either the first or second person I met back in July of last year, actually, because we're approaching, next month will be the 1-year anniversary of us hosting this event in Virbela. We originally, when we went virtual, right at the beginning of the pandemic, we went originally to AltSpace, and we ran into the issue that AltSpace at the time was not running on Mac, and we needed to have a solution for people who were in PC and Mac. And Virbela was like, "Hey, you guys should come over here and give it a try," which we did, and we loved it over here, and we've been doing it over here ever since. And apparently, they loved having us and had decided to sponsor us starting the following month. The one thing I will say, I know Brad's contact information is up on the screen right now. If you go to vrarchicago.com, the contact information for all of the presenters for every presentation is always available. whatever they choose to share. So if it's their LinkedIn or their Twitter or their Facebook or whatever else they care to share, usually their email address is also available there. But up next, I have Bart Wilson. Bart, would you care to join me?
Hey, thanks for letting me come to the event. Appreciate being here.
Can you come stand by me, Bart, instead of sitting? If you're sitting back there, you're actually covered by a slide.
Yep, that's just rude. Yeah, I got to learn how the WASD keys. There we go. Hello.
There we go. Keep coming over a little bit closer because I don't want you to be blocked. And okay, I can see you now. You're good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I wanted to say thanks again to everyone. I appreciate everyone showing up to this forum. I'm a little bit new to these types of things, even though I'm one of probably the grandfathers of the virtual reality platform. Been doing this for quite a few years. And rather than talk, I guess, a little bit more of BPIX and the companies that I've started, I thought I would spend a little fun time giving you guys a little bit of background and education on the birth of the digital camera, since I was there at Eastman Kodak, or I would like to say I'm lucky enough to have been at Kodak during the 1990s. Next slide. And next slide. So who is this guy? Well, if you haven't heard about me, I've been around the block a few times. I have been lucky to have been at several interesting startups and technology convergences, one of which is the Macintosh digital publishing market. I was working at Apple at Infomart in Dallas, Texas, and doing a great deal of education. I had met Steve Jobs. I had met a lot of the folks at Apple Computer who made really a big difference. Steve Wozniak, a couple others that no longer with us. But I had a chance to go into the advertising realm at a company called Levinson & Hill, which was an advertising agency. And one of our clients was Eastman Kodak. Well, Eastman Kodak decided that we were doing such a great job, they came down and bought 16 of us. So they transplanted us to Rochester and to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, where I started to do a lot of very interesting things in the early to mid 90s. One of the things is launching the first digital cameras. I'm also the father of the Kodak Photo CD technology. I'm one of the folks who wrote the tech for transferring the Photo YCC image pack into an 18 megabyte TIFF file, which we could use for digital prepress. MacWeek magazine, which is no longer around. Back in the 90s, this is like the equivalent of being a rock star and getting to be on the front page of the Rolling Stone magazine. That was my 15 minutes of fame. And aside from doing that, I was also at Netscape and Apple Computer. So I did a few interesting things with publishing and the first Netscape sweet spot servers, but also fell in love, head over heels in love, with something called QuickTime virtual reality. Next slide. So before we can talk about 360 virtual reality and virtual tour cameras, you have to first figure out, well, who created the first digital camera? And if anyone knows that answer, feel free to text it. If not, I'm going to give you a little bit of education on this one. Next slide. So I like to use the, well, how did we get here? Next slide. I'll give you a couple of hints. The first digital camera that was done at Eastman Kodak was built in 1975, and it didn't make a very big image. It was about 100 pixels by 100 pixels. There was no such thing as hard drives. We had cassette tapes. Our former speaker had mentioned, knowing about 8-track tape stereo. Well, cassettes kind of followed after 8-track tape stereo, and that's what we were writing the images to. I think the bad news is, Kodak basically has a patent on it, but they didn't want it. Ironically, even after Kodak's bankruptcy in 2012, President Obama awarded a National Medal of Technology to the 1975 inventor. Next slide. Steve Sasson. Steve Sasson is a brilliant guy. I had a chance to meet him many years ago, but he is the guy who is credited with building the first digital camera for Eastman Kodak. Kodak basically didn't like it so much after they saw, hey, we can go digital. And Kodak was realizing we make money on film processing. We're not so sure we wanted to do that. And Kodak didn't really do a great job at getting this thing done, but they did experiment a little bit. But by the time they realized that digital cameras and going digital was going to be so good, they kind of missed the boat. Fuji, Konica, Olympus, even IBM formed another company, and they all kind of jumped onto the bandwagon. And by the time Kodak realized it was time for us to change what we were doing, it was a little bit too late, and they went bankrupt on 19 January of 2012. Next slide. So yeah, you can say my employer did kind of screw it all up. So I left Kodak in 1997. I did a little freelance work for a couple of years working for newspapers like the Dallas Morning News, Los Angeles Times, and I helped a lot of these newspapers go digital. I went back to Apple Computer in 1997 and studied Apple QuickTime virtual reality and a lot of interesting things that Apple was making at that time, including QuickTime VR Studio. And then in 1999, I decided to form my first virtual reality software company. Next slide. So here's another one of those trivia things. You guys might be seeing a lot of 8-track tape stereo here, but I can't list all of the other digital cameras like the ones we use today from Ricoh Theta and the big $15,000 Death Star cameras that we use from Insta360. But how many of you in the room recognize any of these cameras? Show of hands. Anyone? Raise your hand if you guys recognize any of these. Okay, we got a couple. Good, 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 good. All right, next slide. So what I use in the next slide is, this is kind of the names. You know, the first camera that really kind of commercialized everything was back in 96, 97. And that's that little fat little lens. It's called the egg solution. It was a nice little fat lens that was made by a company in France. And for real estate agents, they really liked it. It was one of the first do-it-yourself virtual tours that any real estate agent, albeit technology challenged or otherwise, could actually figure it out. In Carnegie Mellon University, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 lenses were all produced by the same company called IC360. They had a mirror on a stick, which was a glass mirror, and it kind of fit inside a mayonnaise jar. And that actually did a very good job at producing what I call the digital donut back in the late 90s and early 2000s. They eventually went to another product called the Go Pano, and that was also produced by a company called Kaidan, which is the company that went bankrupt some years ago, no longer here. A little piece of history, they made the Go Pano Micro, and this was the first virtual tour camera that was funded on Kickstarter. And they actually was looking for about $18,000 or so. They actually got funded to the tune of almost $70,000. So they really overachieved what they were looking for. And this was not even a lens that was 1 inch in size. It produced a really, really horrible, crappy image, but it was fun. And it worked with your iPhone 3 and iPhone 4. When the action cam videos came out, like with GoPro, they decided to go build this cute little ball that was about 3 times the size of a golf ball, and it did 2K and then eventually 4K video. Bubble was another one. Samsung Gear came out with a couple of different models. A Polish company called Panono came out. Nikon came out with a pretty interesting Me Too little camera with a nice little lens in the front and back called the Key Mission. Another French company called the Gyroptic had tried a couple of times, and they're also out of business today. Next slide. So how did I get involved with building digital cameras? I guess you can say that my destiny was already kind of written in the stars. My father was one of the contractors that worked at NASA. And during the 60s and 70s, he was involved with rapid film processing and the development of the film that came back from the Apollo moonshots. So I had a chance to meet a lot of the astronauts and get a chance to hang out at NASA and really appreciated science and technology. So at an early age, I was able to get a lot of exposure to science, technology, and a lot of interesting digital cameras. So I think that's kind of what put the blood, I guess the Kodak blood, I guess, running through my veins, and eventually I went towards doing things that were digital. Next slide. So after my tour of duty in Afghanistan and Turkey, I got out of the military with an honorable discharge. I did kind of plunk around a little bit, and after some looking at technology with real estate and where imaging was going to go, I found myself back at Cupertino and at Apple Developer University, where I was really digging into how do you produce interactive multimedia images with 360 virtual reality. At that time, there really wasn't a lot of options, but Apple Computer was doing things with a software platform called QuickTime VR Studio, and it was a pretty good product. It was user intuitive. It was easy to work with, and we were starting to build some of these first real estate home tours way back in early 2000 through 2003, and then things really got pretty heated up after Google came out with the Google Maps platform in beta in 2004. Things got really interesting. Next slide. So that's pretty much a little bit about me and my background, about our company called Virtual Pictures Corporation. We have several different platforms. We're not all about real estate. One of our sister companies is a company called Motor Street 360, and that is a 360 digital merchandising platform. It is one of the fastest growing markets in virtual reality outside of real estate. There are about 41,000 car dealers in North America. About 18,000 of them are independent car dealers, and they're all feeling the pain of Carvana and Vroom and companies that are trying to get consumers to buy cars direct online and not buy it through the traditional brick and mortar retail location. We are friends of those car dealers, so we have a vertical platform and a merchandising solution which allows us to have car studios and software that captures 360 car spins and lets you see the inside and the outside of a car, but you have a choice. You can either buy it online and have the car dealership deliver it to you, or you can browse online and then go take a look at that if you want at the car dealership. Next slide. What's that?
We're kind of way over time here. If you can wrap this up again.
Sorry about that. So this is a pitch deck that I can send to anyone if you want to plot that to my email. So let's go to the next slide. We got a few locations around the world. Next slide. We do see a few interesting things. You know, what's next in 360? Mostly it's going to be in education. It's going to be with bringing 3D visualization, you know, to the masses as far as entertainment, including with pre-sales and those types of applications. Next slide. That's it. And there's my contact information. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Really cool kind of history of digital cameras there. But yeah, I mean, you'll be available to answer any questions too during the Q&A session, so we can do that at that point. Looks like, go. Yeah, if you don't mind just running back to your seat and grab a seat. And up next, we will have Rajat Jain from QLab. And there you are. So I'll get out of your way and shut up.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Matt, for introducing me here. Hi, I am Rajat Jain, founder of QLens, a virtual reality content creation company. QLens is one of the most prominent VR companies in India, currently associated with a few of the best names, including but not limited to the National Republic Day celebration, National Independence Day celebration, broadcasting PM's address to nation, BMW, the largest literary festival, literary and cultural festival on planet, and many more to name. Now, using the finest tech, we are already known to create breathtaking VR content for masses. Do we? There was a slide associated with it. Oh, we don't have it, Tom?
Sorry, can you see the slides, Prashant?
No, I can't. That's why.
On the bottom right of your screen, do you see the presentation tool?
Yeah, but it's all right if it's not there. That's okay.
Just you guys let me know what slide to go to. That's all.
It's all right. No problem.
Okay.
I'll continue from here. Yeah. So virtual reality, as we all know, is creating a buzz around the world, and technology primarily created for great games is now being adopted by every other industry domain in their capacity. Right. Now, humans have been talking about the immersive technology in real estate. So humans have been residing in some or the other manner inside a premise since the known history and will continue to do so. So here, one thing is pretty much clear that real estate will be there as an industry till humans are there. Okay. Now, our tools of finding property may change, which we have already seen, shifting from physically finding, hopping from one to another, to shortlisting first on listing websites. And now here's VR. So visiting those properties virtually. Now, it is not something to be just fancy about, but a very helpful tool for builders and prospects alike. It saves time, energy, and money for both. Typically, you cannot visit more than 3 to 4 of them in a day, but with VR, you can have them ticked in the list, let's say in half an hour or so. So that's pretty efficiently managed time, right? What VR does is, so VR actually eliminates the disconnect with the prospect when you're pitching some property to your prospect. With the conventional methods of showing them the property virtually, the photos and videos, what they do is they are either on a different screen, but when you're using VR, you put the user inside the experience, so he feels like he's standing inside the property and moving around as if he was actually present there. So this pandemic has taught us many things. So it's not much harder to shift to newer tech. So we just saw that whole world shift to alternate ways during this pandemic, right? But talking about VR and shifting to VR, we are currently building globally local products. So anything, even if we are creating VR experiences here, the devices are being made to the devices to experience are being made in US, and the devices to create these experiences are being made in China. To host it are being made in just now Bart said, right? So he's creating one of these platforms to host these. And like the company like us, we are content creators. We are from India, so we are currently creating globally local products for each and everyone. Even some of the best industry experts who are offering these VR services on their platform, like let's say AWS or maybe Google, so they are specifically targeting real estate users, both the developers as well as the prospects, in their pitching deck of this virtual reality thing, right? I'll share a few of the use cases here. Many of my customers approach me for building conventional videos and photographs for them, but then when they experience this VR tech, they tend to move to this technology because it just eliminates it saves time, it saves cost, it saves energy for them. They do not have to bring every other lead to their property. They can just shortlist everyone, and then it also saves money for them because even if we take in picture the simpler things like the fuel cost will also be added to the conversion, right? So the same happened with few of my customers here. One was building a commercial space. Now he wanted a video of this commercial space, but then he shifted to VR experiences so that he can host it on his website. And plus, he can also share these experiences. All these experiences are cloud hosted. So you can just share a link on maybe WhatsApp or any other messaging website or app or anything like that. So people also tend to be fancy about VR experiences because generally, if we are not talking about the tech geeks, but generally people have not yet been around this VR tech in other industries than games, right? So they are also fancy about experiencing all these let's say premises in 360 degree. So what they all know, how people connect with this VR is when you tell them that the Google Street View, maybe this is the most common example that we used to give to our customers. That's pretty much a very common 360-degree experience for everyone. Similarly, when we talk about the experiences for properties which are already there in existence, but what about the properties which are not in existence? So we're also creating experiences for such properties which will be there after 3 or 4 years, maybe they have not yet started constructions. So basically what you're doing is you're giving them a gist of how it would feel like to stand inside a property that they might buy in the coming days. So this is how VR is changing the whole prospect for everyone. And being a content creation company, everyone has, like just Bart said, they are hosting these experiences. So we need someone to host these experiences. We also need someone to create these experiences, and we also need someone to get the tools handy for creating all these experiences. So it's a collaborative effort for everyone. VR will be a game changer, as I think, to be in not this pandemic has actually reduced the time we were expecting the VR to be mainstream. So hoping for it to be very much common and pretty much handy. Apart from that, there are also tools just like VPix we just saw, which are just readily available on your browser. You do not need to download anything. You do not need to add on anything. No plugin, nothing required. So we need to have these kind of tools and applications and websites and platforms for everyone. So real estate is as my previous speaker also said, that real estate has been maybe 10 years or 20 years back, because they're still using the papers for most of their day-to-day routine, right? So we are hoping to have it mainstream, the VR tech, in at least people experiencing and finding property for them. And as a content creation company, I am very much optimistic about these changes evident in near future. Thank you from my side.
All right, and thank you. As I said, I want to say to that, the one thing that I'll say that I think is actually going to drive the conversation about VR and AR being adopted in real estate is, if you look at the numbers, you look at like what a virtual tour does for sales. And again, we'll get to this more in the Q&A, but it's just, there's no question. Like you take two properties that are almost identical side by side, you put one with a virtual tour and one without. The one with a virtual tour is going to sell first. And so anyway, we'll get to that. But let me get to our next speaker, who is Vishal Reddy from WowZone.
Thank you, Matt.
Absolutely. Come and join me and I will get out of the way. Thank you.
Great. Hello, everyone. It's an absolute honor being on this renowned panel this morning. Well, it's morning for me here. I'm Vishal, the founder of WowZone. Been based in India for the last 5 years, but we run out of headquarters in the UK, owing to our recent fundraising round with the venture capitalists in the UK, London and Manchester. I run a family of experts in immersive technologies. We're experts in technology that delivers immersion. And we are experts because we took a bet in this sector before the big five, before PTC bought Vuforia engine from Qualcomm, and before Apple bought Meta.io and converted into ARKit. This was late 2014 and early 2015. And what is immersion? Immersion is the need to be completely involved in something. And immersion was traditionally delivered by bringing people to specialized built environments, like real estate. People will come to offices to focus on work. They go to factories to manufacture things. They come to convention centers to network and be involved in a conversation. But as you've seen, I've been saying I told you so for a while now, over the last 1 year, but traditionally, immersion was delivered by bringing people together, but it's not as sustainable anymore. It is not as safe anymore. And the best immersive experiences today are delivered using XR technologies Extended reality I use as an umbrella term that covers augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, with our secret sauce, which is deep learning AI, because AI is what delivers the absolute personalization in these experiences, which make them as realistic, engaging, and satisfying in all our devices. Can you go to the next slide, please? The first slide. Thank you. So we have awesome experts in technology that delivers immersion. And here I have a quick 5-minute course into an immersion suite or an immersion kit for the real estate sector. Next slide, please. What we do again, the risk of repeating myself, we solve business problems with immersive technologies and are driven with the mission to hyper-accelerate its adoption. Next slide, please. The essential tasks of business areas that can be enriched by immersion in real estate, the first being property visualizations, how people can experience a property without having to be there, without risking their lives in the current situation. The second kit is respect to delivering sales remotely using some of the latest technologies of augmented reality where you can annotate in physical spaces. The third kit is for digital marketing on existing platforms, and even if you want to create custom landing pages using some of the core technologies in place. Next slide, please. Thank you. How would you visualize a property? A, B, C, D, 4 options here. The first one being virtual walkthrough that most of our panelists have spoken about. You're creating a digital twin of a real property. I'll tell you how shortly towards the end of this conversation. You create a digital twin of a property, load it onto a web page that can be accessed through a mobile, tablet, or a PC. The user can walk through the property, explore and engage with several parts in the property, whether it's external or interior. Hotspots highlight features of the property. You can change the view into a realistic view or an X-ray view if you want to see how the property is made, how the wiring is done, etc. The second option after a virtual walkthrough is AR visualization. A typical difference between virtual reality and augmented reality is in AR, your device would have spatial and environmental awareness. In virtual reality, you're walking through, like you're doing in Verbella, using your arrow keys or a mouse gesture. In augmented reality, you're literally walking through a life-size model of a space using your device because it accesses the device sensors and gives you a more realistic experience. The third option, virtual staging, typically used for interior spaces, interior layouts, where a collection of objects that make an interior are placed in augmented reality, and again, you can walk through them and experience it. You can also click on various objects and explore further information and go purchase the products as you click on them. We insist on creating a purchase workflow in all the experiences. This is how we design solutions for our clients. The last option, probably the most used option, as awesome, we've probably delivered over, I think, 10,000 interactive ads with the major publishers of the world. Here, an image is a target, and using augmented reality, you deliver interactive digital content on the image, as simple as a video ad, or as immersive as a 3D model on a print ad, where you deliver digital content and basically take traffic from a print object to a website and continue the purchase workflow. Next slide, please. This is just explaining virtual walkthrough, which I've just described earlier. We're taking your prospects to an interactive 3D tour of the property from the comfort of their location. Again, all solutions have to be compatible and realistic on all devices. Anything that we deliver would work on mobile, tablet, and PCs. Next slide, please. The same 3D model, if placed in an AR experience, can be projected in front of you. Typically, an AR module will detect a surface, a ground, and place the object. You can place a single room. You can place an entire property in life size. and then you start walking through it. Everything is visualized life size. You can turn around like you would do in a physical space and experience things. People would have an option in a typical experience to shift from a virtual reality experience to an augmented reality experience. That's how we would design a typical UI. Next slide, please. Virtual staging using augmented reality. If you have space around you, select a furniture layout. Or if you're visiting an actual property and you don't want to engage with a salesperson, considering the current pandemic and social distancing norms, a real estate developer can give an iPad or a tablet to the person or ask them to download an app. They walk through the property and visualize various layouts and formats of the interior. Virtual staging is visualize 3D furniture and interior design in an empty property using augmented reality. Next slide, please. AR print catalogs. We call this interactive print, where you're augmenting any print material, a brochure or a catalog or even a print ad with digital content, with immersive digital content, with various workflows for creating inquiries or visualizing the property or talking to a person. Next slide, please. The second kit for remote sales, we actually use this extensively in factory manufacturing environments where a person on the factory floor can engage and interact with somebody sitting remotely. It's relevant in retail sector too, like real estate, because using augmented reality, you compare this with a typical video call on Facebook or WhatsApp. In an AR call, you can annotate specific locations in the environment. Apart from voice, you have spatial annotations as an extremely effective tool to communicate better. A salesperson can be at the property, the prospect or the lead can be anywhere, and the salesperson can engage with annotations apart from voice, and the person sitting remotely, the lead, can direct the salesperson into showing him or her specific parts of the property. A remote assistance is what it's called in the industrial space. It has great applications in remote sales. We have used this even in fashion retail situations where large stores could be demonstrated remotely to prospects. Thank you. Next slide, please. Well, everything else falls under immersive digital marketing, where you can create characters, mascots, filters, and gamify the experiences using existing real estate platforms like Facebook, Instagram, which already support and have inbuilt augmented reality engines. Any experience that we create, in fact, the visualization, the AR staging that I mentioned before, can be delivered through existing social media platforms as well. Next slide, please. Just showing you how, for example, we've used cases where we've shot green screen videos of the owners of real estate companies, of senior salespersons, and use their characters to introduce the property to people. This can be done both in 2D or using volumetric capture in 3D as well. We have partner studios in London that can do this for you. Next slide, please. AR filters, most of us, especially teenagers today, are used to playing with these on Snapchat and Instagram. You can create filters with respect to your property. You can always do visualizations of your property and install them into Instagram filters and post them on your Instagram feed and enable people to experience and convert that into a lead. Next slide, please. AR filters with more interaction and leaderboards and scores can be more interactive. You gamify the experience. Through games, you deliver a message, you educate people about your product or service. This will greatly enhance the quality of the experience and increase your conversions. Next slide, please. Matt, next.
Yeah, it's delayed apparently. I clicked next, so give me a second.
No problem. You having trouble going forward?
Give me a sec. I'm going to refresh the screen.
Just Well, this is still better than having a creative block in a face-to-face environment. I can hide behind the screen. Sure, I think that pretty much culminates or finishes the immersive solution kit that I have for real estate. Just to summarize, virtual visualization, property visualization in virtual reality, augmented reality, virtual staging, and interactive print. The second one was how to deliver a more immersive remote sales experience using AR annotations in the spatial environment. The third one was all these experiences delivered through existing social media platforms, which most companies do not realize to exploit. They have Facebook pages, Instagram pages, but they do not use the AR features, and they have some really easy to use no-code interfaces. There's a tool called Spark AR that is used by both Facebook and Instagram. A designer without coding experience can quickly create experiences on these platforms and publish them.
Yeah, sorry about the presentation. It's just not giving me control of the screen.
That's all right. Would you like me to just continue?
We're pretty much out of time anyway, and we should get to the Q&A session. So it's going to make it a little bit fun to try and get to those screens.
Just to close this, my last slide was giving you an example of a high-level solutions architecture or a design approach. All the experiences, the kit that I've introduced to you today has a common backend. We create something called a media store on the cloud that houses all the 3D assets, the videos, and text material. And in the front end, you have virtual reality experiences, the augmented reality experiences, also the digital marketing experiences on social media platforms that are supported by a common backend. Typically, a company would install all these on their own private cloud. To be able to track them, we also give a dashboard for the managers to track the activity, have external integrations to existing sales software and CRMs, because anything that you create should not remain as a gimmick, but should integrate into the existing business workflow. We are system integrators, a solutions company in India. But we have our new headquarters in the UK, which is an R&D product company, which will be dishing out products very soon. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Sorry about that. We seem to have lost the slide here, but that's okay. We were wrapping up anyway, and so we'll talk about Q&A, the Q&A process. So actually, if all the presenters would rejoin me up here. I'm going to get rid of the slide deck at this point anyway. And if you guys don't mind just sort of lining yourselves up next to me, I'm going to watch on the camera to make sure that everybody can be seen. There we go. We're good enough there. Although Greg's kind of off to the side. So for the way that the live Q&A is going to work, I normally have a slide up that shows this, but apparently slides.com is having some issues at the moment. But what I will say is the way we will do Q&A, for those of you watching on Facebook, please feel free to actually type questions into the Facebook chat and I will read them into the room. For those of you who are live in the room, we'll see who's going to be the first one to volunteer in a moment. You just raise your hand. If you raise your hand, I will call on you. When I call on you, please unmute yourself. You can ask your question. And then when you're done asking your question, you can remute yourself. For everybody up here on the stage, if you don't mind, I saw that almost all of you kind of unmuted automatically. Please mute yourselves. When you're talking, unmute. This just helps us to reduce echo for those of us who are not wearing headsets. I do actually want to give, just Tom just beat me to it by about a second. I do want to have a special thanks to Vishal and Rajat for joining us from India. It is very, very early in the morning for them at the moment. But with that, let's see who in the room is going to actually be the brave one that raises their hand first and asks the first question. Actually, sorry, I need to sort by raised hands. That will help too, because then I'll be able to see you guys. Do we have a first question in the room or first question on Facebook? Need to make everybody get up and dance.
Or if anybody has any good Microsoft jokes, always like a good Microsoft joke.
Was that the joke or did I miss it?
You know what? Actually,
I couldn't resist.
I'm going to throw the first question then until we see somebody come out. So I guess, left to right here, and I'll call you guys out so I can actually see your names. So I'll call you left to my right. What's the one piece of immersive? What's kind of like the one sort of game changer that you see happening when it comes to immersive technology and real estate? How is immersive technology, even more so than it already has? What's the game changer? What's it going to do that's going to completely change the real estate industry? And I'll start with Rajat because you're on my left, and I'm going to read you guys off left to right. And if I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize.
Yeah, thanks. So what I think we are at very early stage currently to say anything how it's going to shape the real estate industry. But what we're witnessing already is way ahead of the conventional methods that we are already used to. VR in itself is at a very evolving stage. Currently, we do not have devices which are readily available for people to. Many people do not have it. Like we have gaming consoles at homes. Like it's the necessity, right? But we do not have VR glasses with everyone. So I currently see it at very early stage, but we are progressing at very fast pace, I should say. And this pandemic has also increased the speed of it. So eventually it will be like, as I said in my presentation also, it's going to shape the shortlisting and the selection process of the commercial as well as residential real estate spaces for everyone.
All right, Vishal.
Yes, Matt, thanks for the question. I would define virtual reality slightly differently. Anything that we experience in our devices where we have to let go ourselves from our physical environment and dive into a virtual environment is virtual reality, headset or not. So, and saying that all our devices today are compatible, we can have these experiences on, devices from the last 3 or 4 years or even longer. So yes, the technology is accessible to everyone is the key. We can penetrate it to any extent. Any developer should invest in it. Having said that, the real game changer is in the capture technology. Now, in spite of having all the engines and the platforms ready to deliver these experiences, the main problem or the highest cost seems to be creation of these 3D models. With the latest LiDAR technologies that are currently available in Apple iPhone 12 and iPad Pro, you can capture a physical space in minutes. More expensive cameras, Pro cameras from Matterport, this costs around $3,000 to $4,000. They can capture entire cities with 99% accuracy. Right, so this is the main game changer because you can capture a real space and convert into a 3D model and then load it onto an engine just within hours. Thank you, Matt.
And Bart?
Well, I think I'm a former real estate agent, so I like to kind of use standards such as the real estate transaction standard. The problem I think we have here is we have too many user experiences. We have too many companies building what they think is a good user interface. Whereas I think that if we were to comply to more standards, we build IDX compliant websites, for example. We finished a very large job for Remax, or one of our developers did. That was kind of interesting project. But to look at how virtual reality is going to be more ubiquitous, it has to be simple. It has to be easy to understand. But when a real estate potential buyer comes to a website, they experience one user experience from VPix, they get one experience from Matterport, they get one experience from IC360 or someone else. It's a little confusing. I'm a big fan for standards, and I think that until sometime we have what's called a RETS, standard for real estate transactions and real estate virtual tours, I think that'll help usher in a more homogenized user experience where I think the home buyer has a much better user experience because it's simple, it's easy to get to. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I do think that companies that are trying to get to, I guess, more market share, they're going to have to look at making the technology more dumbed down, more stupid simple. I think that's one of the things that making things simple will be something people should be working towards.
Brad?
I would say that the real game changer in and from what I have seen and experienced is the ability to connect people. As was said earlier, VR is not really a headset. Not everybody's walking around with a headset on. Maybe they will someday, maybe they won't, but everybody is walking around looking at a mobile device, and the mobile device has moved into making humanity mobile and global. So for me, the game changer is any way I can keep in front of you, my company in front of you, my brand or my solutions in front of you on that mobile device. That's going to be the game changer. And I know that VR is a big part of this, but again, this could be considered VR right now in this space, even though you're on my browser and you're on my computer screen. The concept of being VR is the same, just because I'm not looking around in a room with a empowered headset. I believe I am still just as empowered as any human being who puts on a headset and comes in here or just looks at a screen or a mobile. So again, I think the game changer is simplicity. People are busy. The only way you're going to transform the life of another human in any industry is by transforming the life of the people who service. That's the Amazon. You want a good experience at Amazon.com, then you have to transform the Amazon, not the consumer buying the product. And I believe that goes for the medical industry, the education industry, the real estate industry. Anytime you can empower the people servicing the community in a better, faster, quicker, easier way and compensate them, for us, it's been a game changer. And I think it's going to continue to be the game changer for real estate and many other industries going forward. Thanks, Matt.
And Greg, the
All right, I
commercial
guess I'm
real
gonna
estate
be
perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit of the contrarian. So far, I haven't seen on the office, industrial, or retail side. Maybe it'll impact capital markets more so because the pure amount of properties that a capital markets purchaser has to screen, and a lot of these folks might be older. They might be sitting at home investing, their retirement. But my retail clients have to step foot inside the location physically. They've got to see that the curb is fine and feel the vibe of the people. And most of my clients are, this is their profession. They get it. They get in a plane every day. They go to these places and they need to keep their job. And if VR displaces them, I think that's a threat. But I've just never seen anybody make a decision about a retail location without standing in it, walking around it, looking at how the plumbing stubs come up. There's so many different complexities that I don't think that can be virtually done. I do think, though, VR could be really good on the approval side when these individual real estate people not making the frontline decision on whether or not to look at or invest in or present a site. But when committees get together to make decisions about whether or not to approve it, I think VR is going to ultimately be part of the kind of the pro forma process for looking at a site rather than a PowerPoint deck.
I got a question for you to follow up on what you said, but I'm going to wait because there's a question from Facebook, and this one is definitely directed at Bart. On all the digital cameras in particular, there's, the question comes up as to, why did a lot of them fail? Like, was it too expensive? Was it not the right time? Was the customer not ready for the tech? Out of curiosity, was it the business itself? What do we learn from all the different digital cameras and then 360 cameras that came out that failed and didn't make it?
Yeah, it's an easy one to answer because I'm also an investor and I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of these founders, and I've invested into these companies, sometimes a little and sometimes a lot. It all boils back down to really the technology and basically the ability for us to produce a very natural, looking image. When we all start, this race, as we kind of looked at, the first digital camera, Steve Sasson built a digital camera that cost more than $40,000, but it only produced an image that was capable of producing 100 pixels by 100 pixels. As we've kind of seen other companies stand on the shoulders of others, that's what makes the internet very important. Somebody sees something, through open source, and they go to a webinar or conference and they see some other company that produces an image that produces a 640 by 480, size image. I was one of the guys that helped Eastman Kodak and Apple Computer build the Apple QuickTake 150 camera. And, we got the resolution up a little bit, and then we reached the ceiling because of the CMOS or the CCD sensor. And then you have somebody else that took what we did, and Fuji actually came in and took the Apple contract away from Kodak, and they built the Apple QuickTake 200, and they built a better sensor. So you've seen a lot of this thing over and over again. You see one company produce a CCD sensor that produces an image of 1,000 pixels. I mean, I have $15,000 cameras behind me that are from Insta360. And Insta360 makes all kinds of small cameras, but they also make some pretty big ones too. And when you get a customer, looking at a virtual tour of a house that, has no blown out windows, and they just go, wow, look at this detail. They don't really appreciate the fact that it took a $15,000 camera to produce that virtual tour image of a real estate. But I'm the guy who got paid $2,000 to go produce it. And we got a real estate agent making 6% or 3% who just wrote me a check for $2,000 or $3,000 and says, Bart, thank you very much. I just made a $60,000 commission thanks to your $2,000 job. But that's the nature of the beast. You have to have a good quality camera. You need good quality optics, but you need smart people behind these cameras who know what the hell they're doing. Just because you've got a sharp camera and a sharp image does not make you a virtual tour reality photographer that would be worthy of having the title of I can work at National Geographic or Time Life magazine. You've got to spend time developing your skills. You've got to spend the money, obviously, in investing into better cameras, because I can't walk in the Ticketmaster, one of our national accounts, and go produce a virtual tour of an ESPN, Coliseum, or an event with a $400 Ricoh, Theta, camera. I'd be fired instantly because the images look like crap. But when you get into those types of images that look really super good, you're going to obviously command a much better price, much better performance, but the price of this technology will eventually come down. We had cameras that used to cost $40,000, and now that same camera that produces an 11K image, thanks to Insta360, is now down to about $15,000. I would assume that within the next 18 months to 24 months, that camera might be as low as, 10,000, or 9,000, because technology will get better. The imaging will get sharper, and there'll be software and training to teach people how to produce high quality images. I think that's what is around the corner.
I'm going to give the room another chance to raise hands and ask a question. Otherwise, I'm going to do a couple of follow-ups here. We had a lot of presenters and it went long, so. All right, so really quick, I'm gonna kind of throw the opposite question out there. What has been overhyped? Like, in what way would you say that? And I'm gonna go down the line in the reverse order this time. There's obviously a lot of we talked about the Gartner hype cycle and the fact that people think that certain technologies are going to be the end all be all. They're going to change everything, and then obviously a lot of it's just hype and it doesn't deliver. So when it comes to immersive technology, when it's specific to the real estate industry, what's been overhyped that really just doesn't deliver? And Tom, I'll ask your question next. I just saw that come through on the chat. Greg, starting with you this time.
We in my prior company in Newmark, a group had invested in one of those 360 cameras. And you'd send somebody out in the field and they'd put it down and take a picture, and they'd move it 10 feet and they'd hide behind a wall and take a picture, and they'd stitch it together to do virtual walkthroughs. And it was so labor intensive and expensive that it was just cheaper to get somebody on site. I think that technology got overhyped. It's underused. And I think people view static photography, at least in what I do. And I know it's different in houses. You got to grab people's attention and you got to really just lock it in. And if you don't do that, you lose them. In retail and in office, you have these people that this is their full-time job, is to look at, discern quality real estate, and you have brokers that are not just throwing hundreds of sites at a client, but is being really specific and scalpel-like because the size of the commissions are much bigger than a typical residential sale. So it's a little bit different when you're appealing to your audience, but that tech in particular, lots of folks tried it. They threw it out there, and these were good companies pushing it, and it never caught on.
How about you, Brad? Hey, Visha, do you mind muting until you're ready? Brad?
Yeah, I'm gonna address that as well. I just put in the text chat that back in well, a while ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, we purchased 3 of those Matterport cameras. You know, we had a few agents in the US, and so we would send the Matterport camera to the agents who needed to use it. They had multiple tours they needed to do. That whole concept and idea just poo-pooed real quick because number one, it was cost prohibitive for agents to be able to get involved, but the education and the learning curve on top of being a new or a veteran real estate agent didn't make sense. And so what we did is instead of educating agents on here's how you get a camera, what kind of camera, we found a company, and I think somebody mentioned it, I Spy 360. And so they basically have created a point and click stitch format that allows you to go in within 10 to 20 minutes with literally zero learning curve. And I know they work with a lot of real estate companies. So they had branded a product for our agents so I could pull up on the screen behind me the tour, and it wouldn't be to sell you the house. Of course, people do want to scratch and sniff and see and you know, be in the environment and feel it. But getting to that point, when you're considering relocating across the state or across the country, it's one thing in a neighborhood to look at 6 or 7 homes, but to be able to, again, use that space. We found that the ability to send you to a website, again, it's a website, but being able to have you click on something while you're in the tour, have my face come up and be on a face-to-face phone call connected to the consumer in a virtual tour. Still, does not require a headset, but that's the one thing I see this the hardest piece to get implemented is showing agents and consumers now that you can come into a space just like this. You can look at multiple homes. I can write you an offer and give you a contract right now, and you can sign it and hand it back to me, and we can remove contingencies and deadlines and addendums because I could bring my buyer and seller in here with me as well. Will people buy homes this way? I don't know, but I think implementing what we can do in here, even hearing these conversations, it's an education process. There's something out there that you could do and can do that's a better, faster, cheaper, more efficient way. That's not knocking Matterport, you guys. That's not knocking any digital camera or any technology. I'm just saying there's always, as you all know, somebody competing to do it better, quicker, easier, more efficient. If you've ever taken a Matterport picture, you know it's a long process and it takes time, but the quality, in my opinion, is worth it. If you're going to sit down and seek that quality, again, I could crawl under my car and figure out how my transmission could be better and faster, but I'd rather leave that to Greg or Bartley or the pros. And that's what I think is the biggest challenge is getting this concept and ideal in front of people that virtual reality could be a headset. I have to share this with you just real quick, Matt, because I asked my wife. I said, I talked to Matt, I talked to Tom, I talked to people who have the headset. What would it take for you to go buy a VR headset right now? What would it take? And I got to tell you, she said, if I never had to go to the grocery store ever again, I would buy 2 of them in case the first one broke. I'm going to leave you with that thought. This is a wife who has no technology skills. She doesn't even know what a book of face is, and literally said, I will go buy a VR headset if I never have to go to the grocery store ever again. I love that. I really do.
We're gonna try to limit time on these when we get to the one last question that I saw come across the chat. But Bart, go ahead. What's been overhyped?
I don't know. I think the overhype, I guess, has been a lot of the. I'm a former real estate agent, but I work with thousands of real estate agents right now, and not to pick on any one particular company, but you look at these 3D doll houses. Matterport, is one of them. It's overhyped because as a buyer's agent, which I used to specialize in, nobody cares about the furniture you have in your house. What they care about is a nice two-dimensional, I need to know dimensions. Will my sectional sofa fit in that house that I'm going to buy? And I think that's the most important thing that's, I think, driving people. So I see a lot of technology that's kind of cool, but I've also been a Matterport MSP where I've had customers say, how long is this photographer going to take? How big's your house? Oh, about 5,000 square feet. Oh, well, he's going to be there a while. So, you know, with some of the big Matterport boxy cameras, I mean, thank you. They do produce great images, but I mean, if you got a real estate agent that says to a home that's owner occupied, go take off for an hour, no, you got to come back in 6 hours. Most listings don't like to be gone that long. So I think a lot of the 3D stuff has been overhyped, but I do think that Apple Computer, I can't spill the beans, but you do need to watch what's going to happen next week with the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference. 3D imaging will become a lot faster. It'll come a lot easier, and I think that'll find a way into a lot of the folks that are here as sponsors. They're going to find a way of incorporating some of that 3D stuff, which makes 3D imaging a lot faster, a lot simpler, and a lot less expensive.
Michelle, what's been overhyped? Muted, by the way.
Yes, everyone's talking about the 3D capture technology, but this is relevant for physical spaces that are already built. There's a whole new world of spaces that are in the planning stage and not being built. Most residential properties are sold before they're completed, right? So converting CAD models, adding textures and lighting and creating 3D experiences from them is the other part. And you mentioned the Gartner hype cycle, right? The typical cycle from the technology trigger to the inflated expectations to the disillusionment and the slope of enlightenment. The first 4 stages is where companies and startups create solutions by delivering services. Yeah, and I think we've passed the first 4 stages. We've been riding these 4 stages, having the most difficult conversations since early 2012, 2013. And now I think we're reaching the last stage, which is the plateau of productivity, where standardization is achieved and products like Matterport that are out of the box that just work are being delivered. And I think in my sense, everything is already possible. It's just standardization and great design that is left to get people onto these platforms. It is not really overhyped. I think we're already there. Thank you, Matt.
And Rajat.
I very much agree with Brad as well as Bart. So Bart, actually I second your thought, Bart.
Wow.
This Matterport thing is pretty much hyped much, and nobody cares about this buying VR boxes, as Brad said that his wife is just concerned about not going to grocery store. So thing is, if we can bring the experiences as we are doing it currently, that we are all seeing each other on a browser or an app. So it's about bringing this user experience to much simpler level. It's not just about the VR boxes, but it's the ease of access to the virtual reality thing. Like as I said, that you do not need to download anything, you do not need to put in anything, and it's all about having to experience where we cannot go physically, or just like that.
I was going to say that, full disclosure for everyone who's bringing this stuff up, just FYI, Matterport was actually invited to be one of the presenters tonight. They are, we are connected with them in Chicago and have spoken with them previously. So they did not get back to us in time. But that said, Tom asked a good question in the chat, which is, and I'm not going to call you guys out. I'll just let some people jump in on this really quickly. And then we're going to get back to the networking, which is, what is the toughest part of getting clients to understand the value of adopting this type of tech? Like, it's the age-old question. If you can have the perfect solution, but put it in front of some people, some clients, they're just going to say no. They're like, no, my way of doing it's fine. I'm good. So what have you guys found? What's, and again, self-select, whoever wants to answer, just raise your hand or, jump in, I guess. What do you think is, I guess, stopping customers? What's the hardest part of getting people converted to using new tech?
Uh, I think it's the fear of adoption largely, and it's left to the enrollment skills or the sales skills of the person to make them adopt these technologies. Because, like I said, all these experiences are delivered through devices that we hold in our hands already. You don't need to buy a VR headset or an MR headset. You can experience them. You can convert existing spaces. You can create new 3D models, create an amazing gamified experience so that people can explore a space, play games, win something, like a reward mechanism that can really enhance the quality of these experiences and deliver better conversions for our clients.
Well, what I think is stopping people to adopt this technology is the comfort zone that they are in already. So people are very much used to what they're already using. So shifting, change needs time, and people are not willing to shift to newer technologies as easy and as fast as the world is changing.
I would also. Oh, go ahead, Bart.
I just like what Rajat said. I mean, I think it kind of boils back down to simplicity. I mean, you want to kind of make things approachable. You want to make things that are easy to understand. I mean, people know how to go to a web page and they see an image and they see a little triangle shaped button. They click, they know it plays a video. But I go back to what I said earlier. With virtual reality companies, it's really it's like Forrest Gump. It's like life's a box of chocolates. With virtual reality, you don't know what you're going to get because there's so many different user experiences, and everybody designs a different user experience on how they think virtual reality should be presented. I think that needs to be a choice, for the end user. If you've got a grandmother who's 85 years old who wants to kind of see their 18-year-old, grandson or granddaughter's, birthday party, I think you should homogenize that and make that fairly simple. But if you got somebody who's in their 20s or 30s, who's very adept at technology, and you got a real estate agent who's selling a bunch of commercial property, like Brad, from Cushman Wakefield, they're used to using a laptop, they're used to using a VR headset, but they want to go out there and kind of narrow down 15 properties in Chicago down to 4 or 5. Well, how do we do that? And there's complexity involved. It's not like selling a piece of commercial or residential real estate. Commercial real estate is a very, very, very different animal. So, you have different user experiences, I think, based on the type of customer you're hitting. And the problem with virtual reality is there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of things you can do with it. So I think until we find a magic pill or magic button that kind of identifies who is the user looking at this virtual tour, and then through JavaScript or something simple, we can deliver a very simple, very bare bones user experience for those grandmas. But for that 30-something-year-old person who wants to go, hey, I want to go rent or lease a commercial property in Chicago, they know what they're doing. We can throw a few more bells and whistles at them. So I think it's really going to boil down to waiting for how do we deliver a better user experience designed for targeted users. And Google calls it retargeting. And I think retargeting VR, I think, is a technology platform that's still coming.
I would agree and concur and even echo that, Bart, because I'm fortunate that I get to be in both worlds here. I get to work inside Verbella and work with apple farmers and zookeepers and astronauts and, heart surgeons and scientific people around the world who are looking for connectivity. They're looking for solutions, not a Band-Aid due to a pandemic, but they're looking for global connectivity. So I will echo exactly what you just said. Every human being that has ever been in this space that I have ever met, including Matt and Tom and all of you guys, that opportunity is unprecedented. And I think every user and individual sitting here right now, if I gave you 5 minutes of silence, you'd all come up with a whole list of unique ways, very intellectual, creative ways that you could use this space right now. Even if it was to see grandma, because grandma lives 4 states away, right? She's going to turn on her camera on the screen behind me, and you're all going to get to see grandma you haven't seen for 3 years. That simple connectivity right there and the use. I will tell you what I tell every single person comes in here. You have walked and talked your whole life on this earth. If you can walk in here and talk in here, the question is, what can you do? And that's where, Bart, it does come down to the individual user, their life, their experience. They might just want to meet a family member. They might want to build and run a corporation on something like this. But if you just get them in here and show them, like all of you today, you can walk and talk in here. The sky is the limit. You've done that in the real world. So doing it in a 3D world, in VR, on a browser, on your phone, wherever, it's still connecting and getting that value. So
you mentioned something earlier, which was pretty interesting. I mean, because we have 500,000 virtual tours that we publish through 14 countries worldwide every single year, I get a chance to see both how virtual property is sold from residential as well as from commercial. On the residential side, even up to $2 million, $4 million, we have people who are buying homes right now sight unseen.
Yes,
they see 2 or 3 properties in Dallas and they go, oh my God. And they're actually contacting the agent saying, how can I get you $50,000 wire into escrow right now? Now, on the other hand, we work with commercial companies like Cressa Global and some other commercial companies, which are smaller branded. I think you mentioned something, those things take a lot more time. And they'll go back to those properties 4, 5, 6 times. But by the time they narrow it down to the top 2 or 3 properties that are commercial they want to see, they also want to get to the property. And like you said, they want to feel the curb. They want to look at the conference rooms. They want to look at these things. But having virtual reality will help it narrow it down from 15 properties to 4 or 5. I mean, imagine you don't have to be picking up those clients at an airport and playing taxi driver, driving these people to this commercial property and then that commercial property. Virtual reality has a way of kind of narrowing it down, whether you're commercial or residential or property management, we're talking VRBO. It really helps you narrow down the 1, 2, 3, or 4 properties you absolutely have to see. And that's important to qualify that buyer. But with the commercial properties, it takes a longer sell cycle. With residential property, I'm seeing homes that get sold even $2 million in 20 minutes. They see the virtual tour, boom, they're on the phone. I want this house. I want it. And we're getting multiple offers. I mean, right now we're in the seller's market, and it's a really interesting place because homes are selling in a matter of minutes as opposed to weeks. Commercial properties take a lot longer.
So we built a platform like this, and I see that happening live every day. So I'm over in that environment watching these agents do this like we are here now, but they're conducting transactions, they're writing offers, they're reviewing offers, they're handing documents back and forth in the public chat right here. They're looking on the screens behind us and showing sharing links and going into properties. And like you just said, before you know it, there's an offer, it's accepted, and they walked out of that environment. And the best part is that all those people are in all different locations in the world to make that happen. It's really powerful. It really is.
And with that, we are going to end the Q&A session and let people get back to live networking, because the networking actually is where a lot of the people who won't ask a question in the whole room will ask a question one-on-one with some of you. So I hope all the panel members can stick around. I do want to say thank you again to everybody for coming up and presenting. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, and to our audience for coming, and those of you who joined us on Facebook Live. When we do get back to the networking, I'll be ending the Facebook live stream at that point. Just a reminder, the presentations, the slide decks, I know that we kind of missed part of one of the presentations. The slide decks will be shared to the webpage. You can always visit vrarchicago.com. It will link to the video. It will link to the presentations. You can get contact information for anybody who has ever presented at this event. This is the second time we've done real estate. We did real estate about 2 years ago at a live event. But with that, our next couple of events that we have coming up over the next few months, In July, we have product design. In August, it looks like we're going to be doing manufacturing. So July is actually, so we've, I don't know if you guys, we mentioned earlier this year that we're not actually naming the topics for the entire year. We're going in sort of 3-month cycles, and this is the end of the 3-month cycle. We do have product design 100% confirmed for July, but beyond that, everything is still potentially the topic. We are at this point for August looking at manufacturing. We expect in September it will be hospitality, but those are not confirmed yet. We'll be confirming those before the July event. But with that, if anyone wants to get involved, feel free to email me. You can always find my information on vrarchicago.com. It's very easy to get a hold of me. But once again, thank you. At this point, I'm going to get rid of the seats, and I will, in a moment, turn on private volumes so that we can move into a couple of private conversations. So but right now, 1, 2, 3, all the seats go away. And I'll be turning on the private volumes in just a moment. Once again, thank you everybody on Facebook Live, and thanks again to our presenters and our sponsors, and I'll see you all in the networking. Private volumes will be going on. For those of you who are unfamiliar with private volumes, look on the ground in your space. If you are standing in a circle, you'll be able to hear the people who you are in the circle with and nobody else. If you're outside of a circle, you'll be able to hear the people who are in the rest of the room. And private volumes are going on. So where's private volumes?
Circle of trust. Here you go.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, Rajat, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Maybe the differences in our thoughts was because I guess different